Michael Ramirez was only 8 years old when he discovered that he didn't want to work for anyone else. While other children played in the school playground, he watched as his father came home every night with slumped shoulders and an empty stare. He worked 12 hours a day in a textile factory, earning barely enough to keep his family of 5 afloat. One afternoon, Michael accompanied his mother to the local market. The smell of freshly baked bread hit him like a revelation. He saw the baker, Don Carlos, smiling as he served his customers. His hands were covered in flour, but his eyes glowed with a satisfaction Michael had never seen in his father. "Mom, why does Don Carlos look so happy working?" he asked with the curiosity typical of a child. His mother looked at him tenderly and replied, "Because he works for himself, my son. That business is his." That answer would forever change Michael's perspective on work and money. Over the following years, Michael began observing the differences between those who worked for others and those who owned their own businesses. Employees always seemed tired, worried about being late, and afraid of losing their jobs. Business owners, although they worked just as hard, had something different in their attitude. At 15, Michael made a decision his friends considered crazy. While they were preparing to get part-time jobs, he decided to use his birthday savings and money from small tasks to buy basic baking ingredients. His first bakery was his home kitchen. He began baking homemade bread on weekends, selling it to neighbors and schoolmates. The first months were disastrous. The bread burned, the dough wouldn't rise, and more than once he lost money buying low-quality ingredients. "You're wasting your time," his uncle Roberto told him, an accountant who worked at a prestigious company. "Get yourself a steady job with benefits like any sensible person." But Michael had seen something in Don Carlos's eyes that he couldn't ignore. The early mistakes taught him valuable lessons about costs, profit margins, and quality. Every dollar lost was an investment in knowledge. He kept a notebook where he meticulously recorded every expense, every sale, every gain or loss. Without knowing it, he was developing financial skills no school would ever teach him. By age 17, he already had regular customers. He had learned to calculate exactly how much it cost him to produce each loaf, how much he had to sell to cover expenses, and how much he could reinvest to grow. His friends spent their money on entertainment. Michael reinvested his earnings in better ingredients and basic equipment. The real test came when he turned 18. His parents suggested he work at the same factory where his father worked. "It's a safe job," they insisted. "You'll have a steady salary, paid vacations, and health insurance." The offer was tempting, especially because his homemade bread business barely covered his basic expenses. Michael spent entire nights reflecting on the decision. He could take the easy, predictable path, the one everyone expected, or he could continue building something of his own, with no guarantees, but with the possibility of financial freedom. He remembered his father's sad eyes each night and Don Carlos's bright eyes every morning. He decided to turn down the job. Instead of working for someone else, he used his contacts and acquired knowledge to secure a small loan, not for consumption, but for investment. He bought a used professional oven and rented a tiny space in the local market. The first months were terrible. Some days, he barely sold 3 loaves of bread. One night, he wondered whether he had made the right decision. He watched his friends with stable jobs buying new things, going out on weekends, while he worked 18-hour days trying to keep his business afloat. The hardest lesson came when he realized that making good bread wasn't enough. He needed to understand his customers, their schedules, their preferences. He started waking up at 4 a.m. so there would be hot bread when people left for work. He observed which types of bread sold best and which ones were left at the end of the day. Gradually, sales began to improve, but Michael had learned something crucial. He couldn't spend everything he earned. He implemented a personal rule. 30% of profits were reinvested in the business, 20% was saved for emergencies, only 50% was for personal expenses. This financial discipline, born out of necessity, began to pay off. When his oven broke, he had savings to repair it without going into debt. When he spotted an opportunity to buy ingredients wholesale at a discount, he had capital ready. By age 21, Michael had expanded his business. He no longer just sold basic bread. He had diversified into cakes empanadas, and pastry products. He had hired his first employee, an older woman who had lost her job when an industrial bakery shut down. "Mrs. Carmen, here we don't work to make some distant boss rich. We work to build something of our own." He offered her a fair salary and a small percentage of profits as a monthly bonus. Carmen became not only an employee, but a minor partner in the business. This decision, although it reduced his immediate income, created a different dynamic. Carmen worked with the same passion as Michael because she knew her effort directly affected her earnings. Together, they developed new recipes, improved processes, and attracted more customers. At 25, Michael faced his biggest crisis. A chain of industrial bakeries opened a branch 2 blocks from his shop. They offered cheaper bread produced in mass quantities with lower quality ingredients but unbeatable prices. In the first weeks, he lost 40% of his customers. His employee friends told him, "We told you, Michael, you should have gotten a steady job instead of betting everything on this business." For the first time in years, Michael doubted his decisions. He saw his former schoolmates with comfortable jobs, financed new cars, and bought houses with mortgages. But then he remembered something Don Carlos had told him years earlier. "Michael, when you work for others, your value is limited by what they think you're worth. When you work for yourself, your value is limited only by what you can create." It was time to create differentiated value. Instead of competing on price, Michael decided to compete on quality and experience. He implemented a program where customers could watch how the bread was made. He created a line of artisanal products using local, organic ingredients. He developed a system of personalized orders for special events. More importantly, he began educating his customers about the differences between industrial and artisanal bread. Not arrogantly, he simply shared his passion for quality. He organized free workshops on Saturday mornings, teaching people how to bake at home. These workshops became something unexpected. People not only learned to bake, but they also became ambassadors for his business. They understood the work, dedication, and quality behind artisanal bread. Many returned as loyal customers, willing to pay a fair price for a superior product. By age 30, Michael had built something his employee friends couldn't understand: true financial freedom. He had no boss who could fire him. He didn't depend on a single source of income. He had diversified into catering, selling supplies to small bakers, and consulting for culinary entrepreneurs. But the most valuable things were intangible: leadership, business vision, resilience, and adaptability, skills no traditional employee could acquire. His personal finances reflected this entrepreneurial mentality. While his friends had credit card debt, consumer loans, and financial commitments that kept them tied to jobs they didn't enjoy, Michael had built multiple streams of passive income. He had invested his bakery profits into commercial real estate, buying small storefronts and renting them to other entrepreneurs, creating income that didn't depend on his daily work. He also created a personal investment fund, setting aside 10% of his monthly profits for long-term in financial instruments. The most notable difference was his relationship with money. His employee friends saw money as something scarce, something earned by trading time for salary. Michael saw money as a tool, something that could multiply through smart decisions and strategic investments. At 35, Michael received a surprising offer. A national bakery chain wanted to buy his business model, his recipes, and his brand. The amount offered was enough for him to retire comfortably for the rest of his life. His former co-workers told him, "Sell it. This is your chance to be truly rich." But Michael had learned something fundamental. True wealth wasn't in accumulating money, but in creating sustainable value. He rejected the offer and proposed something else, a franchise system where he would maintain control of quality and business philosophy, but share profits with local entrepreneurs. This decision turned out to be more profitable than selling.